a dev branch. It's a dev branch.
This is episode number 21 of Dev Branch. Post formats status.
It's a joke. Get it? It's a joke.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
I'm Say Reed, and that was actually a portmanteau, not a joke. But at Say Reed Media, I say stuff like that on Twitter.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, aka Post Formats Malone, back at it again.
Go over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, and go listen to us. We'd really appreciate it. And if you're listening to us, you can watch us on all the places. Pick a place. They're everywhere. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's on Twitter.
I like that you.
It's on Twitch. We're everywhere.
Thanks.
Yeah. Like and subscribe.
Smash
Smash all the things.
Hey, we have a guest.
We do.
We got a guest.
Is this a second time or a third time? I'm trying to remember here. I think it's second time, right? Yeah. Okay.
Technically second time.
I feel like you're on the show all the time just because I talk to you so much. So it's all everything WordPress just kind of melds into one big WordPress pile for me. So it's just it's all one long conversation.
I think it's just been a long pandemic and everybody's confused still.
It's been a long pandemic.
Courtney, in 30 seconds, can you describe yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, 30 seconds.
No,
But take 20 seconds to figure it out and then only do 10.
Dev advocate at GoDaddy Pro and team rep, contributor to the WordPress project through the training team over at learn.wordpress.org.
Good job. We went one flight and you did it. Good job.
Okay.
That's your elevator pitch. Good job.
He said 30 seconds, and I feel like it's unfair. Tucker gave you 30 seconds. We only get like 10 each. But
Hey.
I mean,
Yeah, and then you
yes,
mute me.
we're trying to. Yeah.
And then I only just put your Twitter handles on the screen, and that's it.
That's all that matters. That's the only place we actually exist. That's fine.
Yep.
So today, I think we need to hear from our good friend, Post Formats Malone over here. I think you need to, ye must introduce tonight's show. Tonight's show? What show am I on?
Still a long pandemic setting.
Today's show. It's been a long pandemic. Today's show.
Yeah. No, today's show. Today we are talking about one of my pet things to something that I wish had made it into WordPress core when they were talking about it. Gosh, back in the 3s, when Tumblr was new on the scene and appeared to be a threat to WordPress dominance before Automatic went and bought Tumblr.
You already said it twice. Oh my God. I was gonna make a thing after your introduction where I was gonna say that if we have to do something when we say Tumblr on this particular episode. Maybe we should keep. Yeah, there you go. That's what.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, perfect.
So post formats were and they still are in WordPress core. You just have to have support for them in particular themes, but effectively a way to have stylized content. It's sort of what blogging used to be like before things like Blogger and movable type forced you to have some sort of header, some sort of title for your post, for every post. So in a way, it's like you want to share an image. It's effectively microblogging before we started calling it microblogging. And
after we
I
started
really
microblogging? Wasn't microblogging earlier than that?
Not according to Wikipedia. I'm not going to do the Steve thing since
do the
he
Steve
is
thing.
in Italia right now. So under
so do it
the tussle
in an Italian accent. No?
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
offensive.
Oh, right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So
Don't do that.
TumBlogs, which is what they were effectively called, and the first TumBlog is a site called Anarchia, which is still around, like in a sort of archival. The 0.5 is good. Thank you. Anarchia basically would sort of do these link posts and image posts and share all of these different things in kind of one long feed where it just didn't feel like you had to write an essay to put something up on your site. You just had... But see, it was all in one place and you owned all the content.
All there.
Right. Well, I mean, that's always the thing, isn't it? It's all that's
we have
always
CDNs now. We don't have to worry about hosting any of this crap.
One of the things that I've thought about kind of over the years, back when this is happening, I remember using services that would let me upload my image one time and it would like bulk send multiple places. And yeah, there's some arguments about should you repeat yourself on different networks, should you make unique content on the different networks? What I've wanted though is if I send from my own site out to make my own WordPress site, be the home source of the videos, the photos, whatever I'm sharing, and then syndicate from my site so that it's first with my control and I'm not beholden to some social network. And so there used to be a thing in WordPress that would enable us to do that, but then everybody's protocol started getting kind of weird.
I think everybody's protocol getting weird and changing all the time is really what tripped that up.
Yeah, but there's something that's kind of related to that idea of IndieWeb has some tools that are sort of related about but it's more about you put your stuff on your site and it will bring back if people across the web bring you comments.
Yeah, it's like Bridgie or something like that to do those sorts of things.
Well, there is a concept called POSSE, which is publish on your own site, syndicate everywhere.
Right.
That's the IndieWeb standard. I went ahead and put that in our little side chat here.
Show notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go on, Courtney, please.
But we were saying about the TumBlogs with the have your photo or your video post type or link post type that you were putting it first on your own place. I think that conjunction is something that the open web still needs to have happen. But the open web keeps getting more closed in and less open. So that's a concern.
I mean, even right here in our own little old backyard. Sorry.
For sure.
I mean, open web. Doing fine. It's all fine.
But now as we're kind of I will increase the Tumblr count.
Thank you.
As Automatic has purchased them and they're working on moving Tumblr over to Gutenberg. It's kind of an interesting thing to think like, oh man, we actually could have post formats and proper post formats. And I know that people have said, oh, well, with blocks, you kind of have post formats, but it's not the thing. You still have like titles on most of your posts. You still have...
You're such a consummate artist, Cosper. You just want everything to be untitled. You're like, I do not wish to title my work. It shall all be untitled. And my viewers, they shall.
What about the permalinks? What about the permalinks?
Damn it, you need a slug man.
They can just be a timestamp. The permalinks can just be a timestamp, man. You're getting
just a moment of time inside of your mind, a fraction of time on the internet.
Cosper, you're right. I couldn't tell you what the URL was of my live journal post. Couldn't tell you it. Don't even remember what the format was of it. It was probably some crazy GUID number, and that's it. Here you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I get it.
Right.
Makes sense.
Who cares? I mean, I know that probably. I was going to say, I'm sure that anybody into SEO cares, but
okay, I don't want to.
I'm not
like on a whole the new generations are like searching on TikTok. What is SEO to that? What is SEO like? I don't know what Google's plans are, but as WordPress goes, I don't know if it's as WordPress goes, so goes the web, or as so goes the web, so goes WordPress. Or maybe just we're all times they are a changing. But
depending on who you're asking.
Yeah, depending on who you're asking. But the as all this changes kind of underneath our feet with blocks and everything's changing underneath Google's feet, and obviously, you know, Facebook's recent whatever conversion, cloning, self-cloning, whatever they're choosing to do, you know, like this stuff is changing, and SEO isn't even being done in the same way as it was, you know, a couple years ago. And so what are titles? Like, Google search engines are so much more sophisticated than they were, you know, they can get into that content, you know, you could bury an H1 tag. Anyway, point is, I don't know that SEO is the be all end all of anything anymore.
One of the weird things to remember, though, is that right now, if you go to Google, especially if you open up the rest of POSSE section, if you search for something, sometimes you'll get those videos that pop up and they're self-hosted. They're on people's sites, similar to TikTok or Instagram Reels. You'll get some of that type of activity, but later when you click into it, you realize, wait, this is on someone's site, not on some other network. And it's their video that looks kind of TikTok-ish, and it's popping in the search results depending upon what your topics are about. And what if we already have that capability? I think Jetpack and Google Sitekit enable the stories as a custom post type. And those stories are either like photos or those TikTok style videos that you embed. What if that was a post format in posts, right? Instead of as its own separate CPT, what if that used regular posts with the post format to make that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be a logical way to do that.
Aren't posts...
Jason, didn't you play around with stories a little bit too long ago?
I did.
We did a show about it for a second.
Yeah,
like a year ago.
It felt funky. It felt a little funky. Like it was cool.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone's been putting any effort into it, but we should look into it, because I think it was at least 2 years ago that that debuted. I think it was pre-pandemic. It was around the same time Google's open source team was doing more, which BT Dubs has been a whole little mini scandal. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I haven't even looked at it in a while. But. Yeah.
I'm just a real huge stories fan. And so having like the ability to just like crank out content and throw it onto the site, much like what Cosper was saying, is just like, the faster I can get that content out of my phone and into the internet, the better. And so I have to use Instagram to do that, or I have to use TikTok to do that. So that's why I started exploring that. I'm like, how do I host this myself?
So in essence, I mean, we still have the structure of the post having a title by default, but obviously you could very easily make a custom post type that didn't have a title. So you could very easily, and then you just have a block, one block, whatever block it is. It could be, isn't a block essentially the same thing as a post format? And then bringing into that, it would just be a block with, if you want a specific, layout or whatever you want image, you would just be picking a pattern, right? You'd be your own personal. What's that?
That's a plugin from Aaron Jorbin, and that plugin does not display a post format as a single block. It displays in the post what post format that is using. It adds a block inside of a regular post to tell the reader. And I would guess if we went visiting aaron.jorb.in site, we might stumble upon some of those. But it's declaring, it's a public way of declaring, showing here's what this post format is. That's hard to say. What
this post blocks, this post block is. What block is?
We're gonna screw up the grammar at some point. It's okay.
What block it is? It's the block, right?
Words are hard. We've learned that words are hard. So there are, I think, 6 post format types. Do you remember all of them, Cosper? There was like.
I know that there's
photo.
Link, video, photo, quote, I believe is one of them.
Chat is the weird one.
Seven dwarves.
Chat is the weird one. Yes.
Yeah. It was like, put your chat log in. Weird. So, and you could like format. I remember Tadlock having I studied
so hard. I never even saw that.
Okay. Here's the backstory to why Courtney is a developer. One reason, I had a customer that wanted to enable a sidebar before that was a thing, and I was using the Revolution theme. So props to Brian Gardner for compelling me into PHP. Second reason I learned more PHP. I had to like register a sidebar and a widget, and that was all manual at that time. Yeah. Second reason is that I went to the Contributor Day in WordCamp New York 2014, and I was terribly intimidated by those people over by the window that were talking about REST API. And I was like, I don't know what that's all about. But here's the marketing and the training team tables side by side. Well, I fit one of those because I teach marketing and I also teach web dev. And so which table am I supposed to sit at? So I landed at training. And back then it was Courtney O'Callaghan and Tracy Levesque. And I sat down and sort of got a picture of what was going on. And I was dabbling with post formats and enabling them using Headway on my site. I'm making a child leap for Headway. I know how to pick some winners in my day, let me tell you. Yeah, so I decided that post formats with Headway was like, oh, my thing. Oh, this is Courtney's story.
Do you have contact form 7 on there?
No, I'm not that. No. Anyway, so I sat down and I was like, yeah, I can make something about teaching people how to do this for the training team and writing lesson plans about this. And then meetup organizers could go teach people how to use them and make them. So I realized pretty quickly when I sat down, oh, we need a version that's for users and a version that's for enabling that support in developers. And I don't know if before that time we had the thought in the team. I was just a contributor, brand new, kind of out of my element, being in New York alone, figuring everything out for that week. And so I was like, we need a version of this that is how to enable it inside of themes and a version of this that is how to use it. So it was easy to write how to use it. It was harder for me to learn the PHP necessary to build the child theme that then could support the styling for all of that. And so that's how I kind of came into this. And those two are live now and Learn, and other people helped get those across the finish line to publish them. But they are lesson plans, both as a user and a dev on Learn, that you could get about implementing post formats the traditional way. Now we're in an FSE world, full site editing, if that's what we're calling it these days. That name is up for some grabs. And so in the FSE world, how do we make that possible for users?
Our shared FSE.
Yeah. So
living in an FSE.
Okay. Yeah. So we have kind of two ways of doing that. These like two ways that I see as related, but I don't know if either of them are a great solution fully yet or not. The first is templates, and we can edit templates now using the block editor, and you don't even have to have full FSE going on in your site. You could just use the block editor to make a custom template that applies to that post if you would like to do it that way. It's on the right-hand sidebar inside of making a post, and you can find the template and just hit edit and make a new one or change the one you're on. That would be more about the theme areas of that template. So that's more about not as much about the content, but the theme. But I've seen the
frame for the content.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some people implement their post formats on their site where they have unique icons, like as if you were reading Tumblr, and it would indicate which type this is. So for those of us that remember Tumblr days, dang it. There we go. I said it again. So there we go. It's just water today, though. But if you're structuring out that when you're looking at your blog archive, you could identify this is a photo, this is a link, this is a chat, this is whatever the format is. The other option is kind of newer, and I stumbled into this while on one of Anne's recent calls for testing. It's a feature that came out in, I think it was Gutenberg 13.6. It might have been 13.7. You can now make patterns, and I gave a link to 2 places where we could find this. But you can make a pattern and apply it to a specific post. And when the user goes to the post, yes, in this, it's got the code for how to do this. When the user goes to create a new post or whatever custom post type you assign these to, they would have to select between the patterns that are there. So as soon as you hit new post, in the last call for testing, you're presented with 2 different patterns to pick from. What if those patterns were the content layout that you wanted for those post formats? And so as I'm looking at post formats and how do we deal with them now, it's like, well, is that template territory or is it the pattern territory where you're preloading your layout of the content as well? Or maybe it's both. But yet we still have this taxonomy area over here for post formats. And so now what?
Right.
I mean, can you connect?
It's confusing.
Can you connect the taxonomy to a pattern? Like if you selected quote, then it would automatically, like, so I do this a lot with advanced custom fields, right? You select a category and it pops up your various custom fields. It's annoying in terms of like initiation, if you have to wait to decide, or if you don't, pop up the fields before, you make your selection. But that basically could be the same, type of thing. You click a post format, and then it's just like, boom, here's your, your image or your quote or your whatever.
Right. So in the example of the pattern, we didn't have to go to the block inserter to insert that pattern in the last call for testing.
See, that is what is.
I go with whatever, when you put your mouse over top of it, whatever it tells you that it is.
And that is just that's the reason I'm flagging that, just for anyone listening, and you too, that I am like on a language tear in various comments in the WordPress world about like, is it the block panel? Is it the list view? Is it a block inserter? Is it whatever it is?
It's whatever when you put your mouse over top of it and the hover text shows up. That's what I default to usually. So.
Yeah, except for though it turns out all of those things are just kind of there by default, erupting out of nowhere. So that's the problem. We're just naming things without even trying to. It's like the Book of Genesis up in here.
So when we go to make a new post, what was happening as soon as I would go to hit new post, there was a modal right away that I didn't even get into editing the post or anything. It was a modal over top of everything. That's like, pick one of these two, because that was what was in that call for testing. So that's new inside of Gutenberg 13.6 or 7, whichever it came out in. And you had to immediately pick. It wasn't, I'm just going to start a new post and later decide that it's this pattern style or something. Whereas,
so what were the options?
It was, if you run through the call for testing, yeah, there's a Insta WP option for that. I know you guys just had Picasso on last week, but when
is this the right one?
Yeah. Okay. So the Insta WP option would load up a site pretty quickly and show us what that looks like, but it's a little more than we have time for right now. That picture will show you down below a little bit. No.
What you were picking? Oh, those two.
Yeah. So you had either a new event announcement or event recap, and it would have inside of it some titles and some spots for paragraphs, and you just load in, like, it already had words that would be published, and you just fill in additional things.
I mean, that's taking it even to the next step, right? Of specificity.
Yeah.
Were you able to change that language, and it was just like feeder language, or was it?
Well, some of it was about testing the block locking. So there's that. Yeah.
To do that every time you say block locking, it's required. I don't know what that is that I just did, but don't do it. Okay. Anyway,
you're throwing elbows.
I'm throwing elbows. It's just offending someone somewhere, I promise. So is a post format by another name a post format? Like, is that, like, to me, to a certain degree, that is, if you're getting, like, what's the difference between you get your screen, it's like says pick one, you pick one, and then you have your options, and then you fill it out and you hit publish. Like, isn't that the same thing as if you would select post format and you'd get your thing and you'd go about your day? I think maybe the difference is, can you add blocks to the pattern, right? Like you can, or is it restricted within that? Like, these are the only, like, are your blocks locked? Like, I mean, you can lock them. So can you just lock that pattern and that's it? You get the blocks in that pattern and that's what you get, and you can publish it and you're done. Because that's essentially post formats, is it not?
Yeah.
So maybe the problem is we just need to build patterns into the post format UI, which was a lot easier to use, I think, than patterns.
Yeah. So Here's another
No,
Tumblr
no,
mention.
no.
Here's another Tumblr mention. This
There are
is
visual
effectively
gags in this episode, just so you know.
the Tumblr interface. So yeah, I mean, you select your post and you don't really get an opportunity to change it. So if I wanted to paste a link in here,
right,
you know, I would, and there's no real option to change it after the fact. Unlike when you're doing an actual, you know, writing a blog post or a page or whatever else you're working on. So
I wonder if Tumblr, do the thing, please. Tumblr's, because since Tumblr is switching over to Gutenberg, if Tumblr's post formats, which are obviously have been a love of our benevolent dictators for a very long time, as we
wouldn't you if you acquired it? Come on.
I mean, way before he acquired it. We've talked a lot about how post formats and Tumblr are like, you know, kind of living their parallel lives over here. But I'm wondering if Tumblr, which will be then using Gutenberg and is owned by Ye Olde Automatic, will those buttons be essentially patterns of blocks? Because where are you, or is the Gutenberg only in the text editor? That doesn't make sense. So it would
we'll just embed it. It'll be good. We'll just embed it. We'll call it a day. It's no big deal.
Yeah. So like, are those patterns? Like, because I don't know. I know little to nothing about Tumblr's back end, but you know that to me sounds like what is happening there. I don't know what Tumblr's infrastructure was in terms of whatever, you know, its formats. I have no idea what it's like. Do you? Any idea? Like, I haven't got.
I know it was written in PHP.
I know it's it's converting to.
It was written in PHP. I do know that because Marco Arment said he wrote it in PHP.
There you go.
Yep, was written in PHP by Marco Arment and a ton of other people, but he was the primary architect.
Which makes sense for, you know.
Yeah. I see. Daniel just said something in the chat. Wait, we're not getting rid of post formats eventually seems unnecessary.
This is exactly what we're talking about, Daniel. This existential question.
Yep.
Do they deserve
to
live? We're a death panel
interesting
for post
because I have sort of resigned myself to like, okay, post formats, it's never going to be the thing I want it to be, but in a recent post status chat with Matt, which was recorded, I think, before WordCamp Europe, but only put out like a couple weeks ago, Matt said one of the things that he regretted not like doing with WordPress or not finishing or bringing across the finish line was post formats. I think that even though WordPress has become this like everything bucket, so you can run you know, a WooCommerce store from it. You can, you know, set up a corporate site with it. It's a full-fledged CMS now. But I really think it might actually re-engage some people by bringing it back to its blogging root, or, you know, like roots. It's one of those things where
it is the 90s.
People don't. I mean, there are people out there who blog, but a lot of people don't blog at the kind of clip that they did in the mid 2000s
or TikTok.
Right.
And it is a quicker clip because it is quicker to record a video than it is to write a blog. Like, no matter how, you know, everyone does it in their car or whatever while they're driving, and just like.
But I want to display them on my website and make it so that everyone can see them all in one spot.
Well, but now we need the newly decoupled WordPress app to be as intuitive as us publishing on other social platforms, because then if the WordPress app gets to that point, then we own it on our home and then we syndicate.
I think the word, and we haven't talked about this yet, but the decoupling of Jetpack and the WordPress mobile app, I think may be one of the most significant and beneficial things to happen to the WordPress project, the open source project, and the community in a long time. And
or it starts its abandonware stage of life.
No, because
it doesn't have any money behind it.
Functionality, it already, it just needs to continue to stay. Okay, we can't talk about this because we have like 30 seconds left. No, but it's a great, maybe we should talk about it at the next dev branch and get some support, because it's
especially how do you use blocks with it? That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, there's so many questions.
Totally.
We keep doing this. We keep, building.
No, that's what we're supposed to do.
We are an endless barrel of questions on this show.
Yes.
That's all we do here.
Even though he's not on the show, I think I'll give, since we're at our time, I'll give Daniel the last word. He says, "Forget all this and bring back friend."
Yes, I'm with Daniel.
We want, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are all millennials. I think our millennial is showing. Oops.
All right. I think all of us need to go sign up for a Tumblr, except for Cosper. He's been using that for years. And then after that, we can actually be like, now I understand how Tumblr works, and now we can actually apply it to our WordPress sites.
Let's
Sound
see
good?
What happens.
Homework.
I love you all. Have a great day.
Talk to y'all later.
Have
a good rest of your day. Here's our outro. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe to subscribe to this content. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or you can watch us over on YouTube and Facebook. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
This episode did have visual gags that were not explained.